Hey class, I want to thank you for all your hard work, everything you've done so far. I know with only 2 people in here, that's not the quality of discussion we'd want to have. So what I would ask is if you post a few extra times, get a little bit deeper in your comments. And I know that's hard with this material, but this week I'm going to lay out a successful plan for us. I'm going to ask some questions to myself and try to answer them. I'm not going to try to kill you with PowerPoint because PowerPoint's fine. It's a resource in there. And the purpose of our PowerPoint in this class is just to let you see what the industrial firefighters are seeing on their side. So my goal is to talk about a little bit about pre-incident planning. Why do we pre-incident plan? Because showing up to an industry without a plan in place is a guaranteed formula for tragedy. They know that, even though they've been around the facility themselves, they don't have a plan in place until it's written down. So how would you make that pre-incident plan? First of all, I would start by pulling out the actual plans for construction for that facility and every renovation that's been done. That's going to give you a clear understanding of the building itself. Now, I would review that. Then I would physically get off my tail and start at the gate of the facility, look back and see where it connects, and walk through that facility. This is going to take time. This is tedious stuff. Remember, we're putting effort on the front end to guarantee that nobody dies on the back end. Okay? In this plan, as we're going through, I'm going to ask, a lot of times your book's going to say, let's talk to the supervisor. As a down and dirty fireman, I'm going to tell you the best trick of the trade, talk to the maintenance personnel. And that's what I would tell them. Talk to the maintenance personnel because they're conducting this survey by themselves. Now, here's what a good fire officer would do. If I knew that they were going to be doing a pre-incident survey, site survey, whatever you would call it, I'd want my trucks down there. I'd want my personnel in there talking with them and walking every step of the way with them so that we get familiar. By the way, at the end of this project, if it's done correctly and both departments are working with it, both the brigade and the fire department itself, it's a workable document both sides can use. And again, being on the same page means nobody's in harm's way. Okay, as we're going through this, checking every door, where does that door lead to? A few years ago, I was in a facility, opened the door led to nothing, a 20-foot fall, which would not have been good for any of us. Okay, where are my locks? How are my doors locked? Do we have a Knox box key that gets me access to one master set of keys? Does the members of the fire brigade have a master lock, a master key? Okay. If they have multiple keys, are they numbered so that we know it? Think again back to being a regular firefighter. Go back to the situation of being in like a church or a nursing home where there could be rooms that have 2 or 3 different sets of keys. If we label the bottom of the door, key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4, whatever the key is, it lets us go through quicker. Not the top of the door, the bottom of the door. So if I'm in a smoke-filled environment, I'll be able to see it at least. Now, as we're walking through, we're looking at all the processes. Has the machine changed out of the plan that they have already? Okay. If it has, let's go ahead and document that. Also note, how many employees are normally in that area during that time of day, and how does it fluctuate? If they have a night shift, is it a full night shift or is it a half night shift? Do they have watch personnel? Who's going to activate their alarms? Where are their alarm systems at? Okay. Where's the sprinkler system at? Where are the sprinkler heads? Are they turned the right direction? Is there now a sprinkler head that's going to be in the wrong area? Can it be moved? Doing the pre-incident plan, we kind of have an opportunity to make some changes. Also, we're going to notice our hydrants. Fire hydrants are important in this. I want you to know the difference between a yard hydrant and a municipal fire hydrant. Okay? There's a big difference because if you use the facility, what we call a yard hydrant, it's hooked into the sprinkler system. Every time you take water out of that, you're taking water away from the sprinkler system that's putting the fire out. We had a situation in the early 90s in Cambridge, North Carolina, where they physically were taking the water out of the yard hydrants, pulling it away from the sprinkler system to rain down all the building. It looked great on video, but it wasn't doing anything for actually putting the fire out, and we did lose those 2 buildings. And they were massive bills. Okay? Now, getting back to that, note all the special processes that are going on. What do they make? How do they make it? Okay. We've seen the sprinkler system. We've seen that. What else do we need to look at? What about this? Where do we put our ladders? Depending on the type of building it is, there's certain areas that are very easy to ladder up to. Do we have the right length of ladder? That's a big question. If all we have is 24 foot and the entry hole over here is 40 feet, can we get to it with our 24-foot ladder? The answer is no. Thinking those things ahead, that's why these precedent plans are so important. We'll know where we're supposed to be going, what's going on, and how it's supposed to be done. And we use the site survey. Again, it doesn't matter if you go left or right or if you go up, down stories, as long as you walk through every part of that building, understanding your targeted hazards, understand where all the power comes in from the building. Where do I want to make sure that my personnel are not going? Is there special chemicals in one area that is incredibly toxic? Do they have clean agent fire protection that can suffocate my firefighters? Okay. If I have created a plan that goes through everything and I know my site and I've created this file and it's sent to everybody, the next thing we need to do is train on that plan. Okay. We're training on the plan so that we execute it perfectly when we need to. Now, I like electronic copies of these plans because as we make changes, it's very easy to go into electronics and change it nowadays with the MDTs, the cell phones with active 911. I can blow all that information out to my personnel, and it makes it a lot easier on me. If you want a paper copy, that means everywhere you go, you got to have a current paper copy. You've got to make sure you have every one of those pulled when you make a change. Because I guarantee you, if you miss one, that's the one Incident Commander is going to be on. Nowadays with laptops sitting there, I can run a scene, know everything that's going on, and not have a concern if it's electronic. I can also send it to another fire chief, to another officer somewhere else. Say, hey, look at this, and kind of give me is there something we're not thinking about? Sharing information is critical that way. It gives us an opportunity to say, hey, this is right, this is wrong. So let's really quickly talk about exercises and drills that we can do off our precedent plan. The very simplest, cheapest, and the way they usually prefer it is a tabletop, which is where basically we can set up a either the blueprint of the original building or actually just discuss it. And we go step by step what we're going to do. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. You can get more elaborate. You can start causing problems for the people at the tabletop. You can actually add new problems in and see if they can work around them. Now, that's the cheapest and easiest. The most complex is actually going ahead and doing more of the hands-on drill itself, actually pulling the hose off the truck, doing the actual business end of taking care of a fire, going and rescuing people, doing those things. Now, most businesses do not want you doing that at their facility. Think liability and slowing them down. Okay. Now, while they're more than happy to let you walk through and do some things, they're not really wanting you to flow water in certain areas. So how do we handle this? A lot of times we can do joint mock training exercises at like a community college. In a couple of months, you'd be able to come here to our fire tower and actually play with it. A couple of months after that, we'll have another burn building. You'll be able to come in there and play with that. And it gets you used to mocking it up. It's a whole lot easier on everyone because it doesn't disturb the main business. Understand that you're going to have multiple agencies at any real disaster. So if you're having a tabletop board practical, go ahead and have everybody at the table. I know there's some reasons that law enforcement is going to be very interested in certain things. Let them go ahead and be interested. They're going to be there. Let EMS come in and let them start saying, well, I can't actually get my ambulances through because when y'all come in, y'all blocked off this road. It's the things we need to be having discussions about. And that's why training on these plans makes it a little better. We'll find out that, hey, we thought we were going to be able to get water from this source, but this source is dry, or this water point over here 2 times a year gets drained. Or if we have to use municipal water, we need to cut on one of the paddles to increase water pressure throughout the city. Those are the things we'll figure out if we're doing a little bit more of the realistic hands-on. But if everybody's at the same table, we have a good conversation. Again, really quickly, it talks about your book briefly touches on safety inspections versus safety surveys versus fire inspections. Understand that they're going to have some concern when we come in because we often are also the authority having jurisdiction of doing fire inspections. So how we always handle it was, listen, we're here for the purpose of working together This is not the same time we're going to be doing the fire inspection. As I go through, if I see a real problem, I'll go ahead and address it with you. But there's no tickets today. There's no problems. And believe it or not, you actually can call ASHA. They would do the same thing for you. A little bit of free information if you're deciding on the corporate world. You can call ASHA and say, hey, we're going to do a training. We like to have one of your agents come out and actually have a discussion with us. Representatives come out and have a discussion with us, make sure we hit all the highlights and make sure our facility's up to code. And they're willing to do that. Same as we are. But think of it this way, when it's time for a fire inspection, we're going to go through every compartment, every room, every record, make sure everything's up to date. They're going to do what they call a safety inspection, which is just going through, walking through the facility, familiarizing themselves, making sure if they see any fire violations, they fix their house. I merged the two chapters together in a little bit of conversation. If I made as much sense as muddy water, great. If I did, great. Nah, seriously, it's a pleasure talking to you. I'd rather talk to you like this than through PowerPoint. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll answer them as fast as I can. And I look forward to having a discussion with you in the discussion board. Thank you. Goodbye.